Welcome to another edition of the Smoking Den. I'm your host for this evening, Smoky Dan. And tonight we are going to be reviewing a cigar that sounds like it's probably Jay-Z's new line, the Rockefeller, y'all. This is the Rockefeller cigar. It's actually made by a guy named Jeff Avo. If that name sounds familiar to you, it should. He's the son of Avo Uvezien, legendary founder of Avo and jazz musician, if you didn't know. So this is a brand new line. This particular one is the Robusto Gordo, 5 inches with a 60-inch ring gauge. It's a chubby big boy. And it has a very handsome, I believe it's a Habano wrapper. A little bit veiny, very coarse, very chocolatey oily, as you can see here. The fillers are a mix of Dominican fillers and Ligero fillers from Nicaragua. And without further ado, I want to know how this thing tastes. I bet you do too, so let's snip the end off and light her up. Some tobacco in my mouth there. Chewy, chocolatey, earthy flavors. Just a tiny bit of roast coffee on the finish, and then there's another flavor coming in the top palate that's sort of a question mark. Sweet toasted nut, almost toffee-ish, almost but not quite, but it's a really nice blend of flavors. It's a medium-bodied cigar. It's not nearly as powerful as I would have guessed with so many Ligero filters, but I guess the Dominican Ligero's balancing it out a little bit. It's a very cool smoke for all of these hearty flavors, but that's because it's, I suspect, because this is such a large ring gauge cigar. And large ring gauge cigars, because they're large ring gauge, tend to produce a larger volume of smoke, and it's a lot cooler than, say, a Panatella, where you've got a narrow cigar that's getting a lot of smoke sucked through it, so it's a bit harsher and you have to smoke a little bit more slowly to get the flavor. In any case, so far, it's quite tasty, but got a couple inches left to smoke, which means we'll see you in a couple seconds on your YouTube screen with the verdict. And we're back with the verdict on this Rockefeller Robusto Gordo. I'd say overall, I think it's a very good cigar. It's one standout point. I know it's a small thing, but the ash has been stunning. It held its ash for a very long time. It was a big block of ash. It was very solid, very little ribbing to it. That said, draw's been fine. The burn's been great. The flavor has, well, about a third of the way through it started to get some coffee notes on the finish. Some pretty strong coffee notes. And then about halfway through, I started getting some bitter flavors. Not harsh bitter, but just sort of bitter as part of the entire flavor profile equation. And then by two-thirds in, the main flavor profile had sort of died down. It became a little bit more mild, and now most of the flavor. It's a handsome, complex toasted nut flavor, tiny bit of earth and a tiny bit of bitterness coming through, almost like a little bit of like a horseradish bitterness on the finish. Overall, pretty tasty, like I say. It's got a relatively rich mouthfeel, and I am going to give it an 8 out of 10. And I'll tell you something, this is a $5 stick. Now, my cameraman gave it to me, nice little gift, thank you, Mr. Cameraman. And it's, I have to say, I don't know how much the other sizes were, but for a Gordo Robusto, which is a fairly rare size, this is a great cigar for $5. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find much better out there for this price range. Very tasty. I'm gathering this is a very new cigar in the market. If you have access to one, pick one up. It's definitely worth an Abraham. And if you don't have access to one, keep going back to your tobacconist until they have one. In any case, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. Also, feel free to leave a comment. I'm happy to hear from you. And until next time, you keep smoking whatever you're smoking, and we'll see you around for the next review.